What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hana Ho podcast. It's Willie Paul sitting down with Pastor Elwin.
How's it going, Willie?
It's going good.
How's the
Going
waves?
good. I do not know. I am getting old, and I went surfing 2 days in a row, and I was in so much pain. I put Tiger Balm basically everywhere, and I just need to sleep and
I
rest
heard a
today.
guy, he was just turning, what was he, 63 or something on his birthday. That big swell came in. And usually he charges these waves. He said
Yeah.
he got to the top and he saw how steep the drop was. So he backed off. He says, I don't want to die on my 63rd birthday. And every other wave after that, he had a hard time charging it because he kept thinking of, oh, I'm 63 now. So I looked at him, I went, welcome to the club.
I'm still young. I went out on Monday, went out to Waikiki with my longboard. I was going for the set wave, and I was almost on it. And I was like, you know what? I've already put in all this effort. I'm just going to go for it. Scoot up on my board, give it like the last couple, all I had. I was on it. I stood up, and then I looked, and it was like just 6 feet down. And I just went, well, ooh, I think I messed
Hold
up
your
my
breath.
neck or something.
Just hold your breath. Yeah.
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 Oh, it was brutal. But yeah, I definitely know my limits and
Yeah.
getting better at respecting them.
Scary is when you go down and you reach for your leash and you pull your leash and it broke.
Oof.
Your leash
Hasn't
broke.
happened to me yet. Has that happened to you?
No.
Oh,
No,
I don't ever want to be in that situation.
because yeah.
Yeah. But
I think
anyway,
my leg broke. The leash didn't break, but I think maybe my leg broke.
ooh, I think I talked about this on the podcast, but Brandon convinced me, let's go surf North Shore, winter swell, and I got tossed, leash wrapped around my legs, and so I was held under and I couldn't kick my legs at all. That was the all right, God, it's
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Started having those conversations in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
But anyway, Pastor Owen, what a message. Faith, what's most important? Faith in the messy middle. Something that I feel like we're all going through
Yeah.
right now with being unsure. There's so many things where I know that you and I were just talking about, like, what do we do if this happens? How do you make plans when you have these set plans and then kind of everything changes and you have to make these plans again? And it feels like nothing is kind of set in stone right now. Everything is kind of up to change. How have you been finding, like, solid ground? How have you been finding grounding yourself, I guess, through this time?
Um, I think I mentioned a little bit in the message. I don't know if it was online or in person. But having gone through certain things in the past and and trying to stay faithful, through those times where even everything is up in the air, whether it be, in ministry, the challenges of ministry, or with my personal health, having stayed faithful those times and to see that you came out on the other side, just staying with your surfing example for you stay underwater, you're being tossed and turned, but eventually, if you stay calm,
Mhm.
you eventually float back up to the top and you can gasp for air, but at least you're living,
Yeah.
and another set comes and knocks you down and you tumble again. But again, you got to stay faithful, relax, because you're going to pop up again and you're going to get another breath. I think faith is kind of like that. You stay with it, even though you're being tossed, you stay with it, stay with God, and then you pop up. And in the future, when you get stuck in another situation like that, you remember back. You go back and you remember, well, God was with me then. I did walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
Mm-hmm.
and I came out on the other side. Then God will be faithful again. And I think that's what Abraham did. So he saw how God was with him in the past, that he could still trust for what the rest of the story, as I said in the message. There's always the rest of the story. I think we limit ourselves and we limit God, where we get so caught up in the messy middle, and we either check out, We check out of our assignment, or we check out of our faith in God. And we say, forget this. And if God isn't going to be around now, he'll not be around in the future. But that's not right. That's not right. He's always setting us up for something in the future. What is that? I don't know. I kept saying that in the message. What is the future? I don't know. But you stay with the messy middle. James 1, consider it all joy. And you persevere through that so that your faith may be perfected and complete, lacking in nothing. So your faith may be perfected and complete for what's up ahead. Well, what is up ahead? I don't know, but there's something there. I just know that there's something there.
That's part of the faith. And you were talking about Moses, how he had to go through the things so that he could have the faith of where God is leading him through the wilderness. Abraham having the faith to get up and go to the land that God was going to show him, just the unknown, which I think is insane. I mean, reading these stories of like what we talked about this past Sunday of Abraham and Isaac going up, and Abraham being like, okay, this is the kid that God promised me. This is the miracle. And it's like, all right, on faith, like I'm ready to go so far as to like sacrifice my kid, you know?
Yeah. My dream job, you know, my career, I got everything. And God, you want me to do what? You know, this is it. And you want me to do what? I mean, it spun him in confusion, but yet at the same time, Abraham had already gone through stuff like this in the past. And so he could trust that God was going to be there in his future. So
I did want to ask that question because you talked about how part of the faith in the now is looking at the faith in the previous. If there's someone who's like just starting to follow God, doesn't have that track record, how do they build that faith through those moments?
I think you go through the filters I talked about in the end, at the end of the message. And so I went through, I think, 4 different filters. There's also some micro filters, I call them, you know, within that, about the word of God. And then does it make me more like Jesus? Is it convicting me or condemning me? Is it, you know, what does my church family say? I think if you go through those filters, it'll help you to develop the kind of faith that you're going to need for the future. If you're young in the Lord, you're still discovering him. I wouldn't trust myself with having to make those kind of decisions. You know, don't. You can't. You're not ready yet for that. And so put those decisions through that filter system, and that'll help to mature your faith, develop your faith. You know, because some people think, you know, well, okay, I go to church and, okay, God, help me make this decision. And they think about it and they process it on their own without any other filters that they're using. And they come out and say, well, God said, and they do it. And let's say it does turn out. You know, let's say it works out however they wanted it to. But they didn't go through those filters. I think that's kind of dangerous because you're developing a system and process that may not be God. I'm not going to, you know, get in the way of that. But if it was God, great. But it may not be God. I would rather have somebody go through the process. That's why I call it, you know, more critical thinking than just reacting to something.
I like that. I think that a great way to do that, one every episode, is to get into connect groups. And we have great connect groups here at Metro. There are people who have gone through things, who have that track record, who you can ask them the questions. Hey, I think God is calling me to do this. Or, hey, I feel like God is leading me in this crazy direction. I don't know what to think about it. These connect groups are those groups of people where you can have those deep conversations and have those people who are going to speak into your lives in a way that is just to lead you to grow in the Lord out of love, not out of like selfishness or anything, but those conversations where you can really ask those tough questions and have that filter that Pastor Owen just talked about.
Yeah, and I think something that we haven't talked much about, and maybe we should, and I'll just put this bug in your ear, Willie, that a lot of times we want to join a connect group that's like us. We look for the affinity that we have, whether it's age, even gender, you know, interests. So we all like surfing, or we all like baseball, or whatever. And we look for the affinities to pull us together. And there's advantages to that, but sometimes you need somebody on the other side to really have a good processing moment. I believe in strongly in intergenerational kind of groups. And like I said, in the message, if you're thinking, nah, I don't want to ask him for advice because I know what he's going to say already. The issue isn't the question you're dealing with. The issue is your self-pride.
Yeah.
You're not willing to expose or be exposed so the truth can be developed, through the process. And so I would say if you're somebody young, look for a group with people that are older. If you're older, look to join a group where there's some guys that are younger, because we can learn off of each other. But I think there's wisdom in a group of people coming together with different background and experiences. So,
oh, absolutely. Even in youth ministry, like I'm not even going to say some of, but like the best leaders are not the hip, cool 20-somethings with tattoos. It's the aunties and uncles who are like 50, 60 plus.
I'll show you mine. No.
Whoa. I don't think we can show that on here.
It's on my ear. My hearing aid.
Oh, yeah.
I should do that. I should tattoo hearing aids on my ear.
That'd be pretty sick. Oh, I bet that would hurt. But it's the older, the 50, 60 plus that are just showing up and are just like, I've been through that. And like, I can tell you what that was like to go through. And like, not just, hey, I'm 2 years out of college, so I know what it's like to go through college, but like, hey, I'm 40 years out of that. And like, I can look back and tell you about how God has been faithful through my entire life. And those are like the relationships and the times where I think that both parties are able to like really, really be blessed through those relationships.
Yeah.
And if you're a 20-something, even Pastor Elwin, what do you consider young still? Like, what's the cutoff of, because I'm 27. 67. I know that I'm 67. So if you're 67 and below, or 66 and below, go to ask Pastor Elwin just about life experience.
Yeah. I don't know. It varies nowadays. It really does. Hard to put a number on it. And we go through age groups, like millennials and Gen Zs and all that. And those are generalizations. But times have changed so much. I think the age range is bumping up a little more. So those are in their 60s, they still feel they're young, they still try to. I think a better question is, are you on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, or whatever else you got?
So if you're on Facebook,
you're too old.
Try to find someone who's on TikTok. And if you're on TikTok, go and ask the Facebookers to like go grab a cup of coffee and sit down and ask for some life lessons.
Yep.
Oh man, that's a perfect example. All right, what were we talking about? Messy middle, having faith in the messy middle. Pastor Elwin, as a entire world right now, it feels like we're part of a messy middle with COVID and restrictions and just the increasing divide and politicization of basically everything nowadays. How do you, Pastor Elwin, have these conversations with people that like you might not agree with, but you're like, hey, how do you push them towards, hey, let's just have faith in the middle?
Well, I'm trying to, and I've had many conversations about and with people that are not vaxxed. That's kind of a big issue right now. You get vaccinated or not. And if you're anchored in a spot, it's hard for me to talk to anyone about it. But if you're still just wondering, I try to point people to not just look in the here and now, because a lot of the objections are about the here and now. Either you don't trust the vaccine, you don't trust the medical science behind it, or you don't trust the way the government is imposing it upon you. So I hear all of that stuff, and I understand it. I get it. But I think I raised in the message, I said, we have to kind of look beyond that, because who are we going to be when we come out of this stuff? And so to help to develop someone's thinking, you not only have to deal with the here and now, because there's a reality. You can have all the arguments that you want on principle, but it's going to cost something. And I was talking to this one guy, and he said, I just feel that, in principle, that I cannot agree to this. I said, okay, let me share a little bit with you from my law background. Principle is expensive. If you're going to fight for principle, nothing wrong with that. I don't believe in rolling over and playing dead on anything. We live in a society and a system where you have the right to challenge things, but make sure you're challenging it in the right arena. So whether it's medical issues, you challenge that in the medical arena. If it's political imposition of mandates or what have you, those are political questions. It's a policymaker who's in charge. But make sure you challenge that in that arena. But how much are you willing to die for? I mean, what are you willing to die for? Because in the end, unless and until the policymakers change, you have this framework that you have to live within. And you have to make decisions on your daily living. So if you say, no, based on principle, I just cannot do that, you're going to be without a job. And if you're without a job, and all the other companies are requiring vaccines now, where are you going to work? I mean, you can stand on your principle. The government will never take that away from you. We can always stand on our principle, but it's going to cost you. At the same time, this pandemic is going to end. At some point, it's going to end. Who will you be? Who will we be? And I threw the challenge out in the message to the capital C church. Who are we going to be when everything is said and done? So we have to make decisions and live in the present moment. We have to wrestle with the things that we wrestle with. We have to filter it through the filters that I said. But we also got to keep our eyes up and looking to the future, because we're going to get there somehow. There's something waiting out there that God is preparing us for. What will we be? What will we be like when we get there? And I hope we're a church that stays together, that we don't let these kind of issues divide us, because when it goes away, and it will go away, now we're all scattered. That's not what Jesus wants. So put it into the big picture of what is God looking for? He's looking for a church that's solid. He's looking for a church that's faithful, that's still unified together. So that's how I kind of get through it. I have to wrestle with things I got to deal with here, but what does it really mean in the end? What will I be like there when I wrestle with these things here?
Yeah, and you talked about that in the message of basically you said let me just boil it down for you in the two greatest commandments that Jesus gave us, which is to love God and love people as yourself. So really it's okay, is this conversation, is this meme that I'm going to post on my Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, whatever generation you're a part of, is this thing that I'm posting, is this message that I'm sending, is this worth responding to? Is this pushing me to love God and to love others as myself?
Yeah. Unconditionally. No other agenda involved. That's James 3:17, right? 3:16. Is there any selfish ambition involved? Is it about me? Is it about myself? Or is it submissive? Is it peaceable? Is it, and that's a beautiful filter. I was making coffee this morning. I thought, I should have used this as an illustration, because I run things through. I have a filter, but I also put a paper filter inside. And the paper filter, but it slows it down. Yeah. I mean, and the purpose of it, is to filter out all that stuff. And if I just want to drink coffee, man, I just can't wait to get my coffee. So, and I've done this in the past because I got impatient. I stuck a chopstick in the middle and start messing with the filter, and it made it run faster, but it wasn't as pure as it should have been, you know? And I think with our decision, we can do the same thing. We can run it through filters, but no, it's not fast enough. And then we lose the purity of what God was trying to get us to decide and to work through. I mean, that would have been, if I did that, and then I took the cup of coffee and you know, shucks.
Oh, that's an illustration right
shucks. There. Yeah, I missed it.
Man,
but use it.
Thank you. I think I will. What was I going to say? There's this book that I was reading that was about how our entire lives are obsessed with efficiency and getting things done, and specifically as like people who are in capitalistic work-based culture like we are in America, our entire lives are like, how hard can you work? Like, how much can you get done? And like, our icons are the people who are like, yeah, I worked 80 hours a day so that I could, build my empire or whatever. And we contrast that with the life of Jesus, who was like going and preaching to like not millions, thousands of people, like huge groups. And then he would just leave and like go sit in the wilderness and pray for a while. And like, as we contrast that, it's like, man, what is the image of Jesus that we're trying to be more like? And is it the American Jesus of work hard and like all that? Or is it okay, I'm going to do the work that God has called me to, but I'm also going to like slow down and go through these filters like you just talked about and not rush the process. I'm going to take my time to study God's word and see if this decision agrees, to really think through, is this going to make me more like Jesus, not just right now, but in the long run. Pray about whether it's conviction or condemnation, and like take the time to have these conversations with small group, with connect groups, with my friends, to really feel, what does my church family say about this? Man, that's so good, Pastor Owen.
You know, you're right. Which version of Jesus are we looking at? Because if it's the quote unquote Americanized version of Jesus, then we got our constitutional rights. I have a right. I have a right to protest. I have a right to do this. Yeah, you got rights. But you're hitting it. What would Jesus do? It's a simple question. You show me one place in the Bible that Jesus gathered up a protest and marched to Rome, or marched up to Pilate's place, his governor's mansion, and banged on drums and chanted and held up signs. Never did any of that. You show me one place in the Bible where Jesus said, we need a Christian in that office. We got to get this guy out of office. So this guy I'm talking to, I said, you got to understand, what is the framework that you're working under? Our American governmental system creates a framework, and it gives us the process to change who these policymakers are. But until that happens, you got to understand the framework and now do your business, your assignment, your responsibility within that framework. Talking to a parent who wants us to adjust our mask wearing for kids in schools, gives me all this research. I said, that's great research. America is based on healthy debate. You got to have information that's healthy on both sides, and you debate the question. In our courtrooms, you have the adversarial system. You don't have just a prosecutor. You have a defender, and they do cross-examination, and that's where truth comes out. But within that framework is somebody who has to make a decision. And whoever made that decision stands until the person is changed out. Until that happens, you have a responsibility. If I adjusted things with our preschool and went against the guidelines and provisions and all that, they shut me down. But I got to understand, what is that framework? Now I work within that, and I teach people about Jesus. I teach the kids how to pray. I teach them about the Holy Spirit. I teach them, if I don't have the framework, I can't do any of that stuff. So I looked at him and I said, what is your assignment? Your assignment is take care of your kids. If you don't have a job, how are you going to take care of your kids? So, yeah, I don't like that. Okay. you choose. You're asking a kupuna for counsel. I give you counsel. You choose. Not my fight.
Yeah. As a younger lad, what advice would you give if I came to you and I asked your opinion on something and it was something that like I definitely disagreed with? Like you and I, let's say hypothetically, we have this relationship. I trust you, I respect you, but you give me some advice that I definitely disagree with. What would your like next steps for me? Like how would we work through that? How would I like process that?
I cannot carry, the decision you make. I cannot carry that. And so if it's something that's going to hurt you and you still want to go down that road, I cannot carry that and get angry with you and go, oh, you stupid, what's the matter with you? Why don't you listen to reason? That's a decision you got to make. I'll still be available. I'll still be, pray. I don't want to put you down and say, okay, well, you want to do that? I'll just go pray for you. No, I got to respect. If you want to go cut your head off, it's up to you. I got to respect the fact that you're going to process. To me, I really believe this. To me, and I think with God, He wants us to go through the process. Are we trusting Him? Because if we go through the process and we make a mistake, I believe God's loving enough that He'll come alongside and go, okay, I think I mentioned it on Sunday. He'll go, okay, you got to shore up this area. Now, that's grace. That's grace, yeah, giving you another chance. You can either accept it or you shrug it off again. You go down the road, it becomes worse. And God goes, okay, well, you remember the story of the helicopter, yeah?
Yeah.
It's flooding, the man's on the roof, the rescue boat comes by. No, I'm waiting for God. Helicopter come by. Oh, no, I'm waiting for God. And the guy ends up in heaven. Say, where were you, God? I sent you the boat. I sent you the helicopter, God is so gracious. He'll give you another one and another one and another one. And if you don't take it, it's up to you, So for me, if somebody comes to me and they don't take my advice, okay, well, that's your choice. I'm still going to be here. You call me, I'm not going to say, you never listened to me the last time. Why should I talk to you now? I'll still be here. The thing is, you don't have to go down that road. And, but that's grace. So grace that God extends, I got to extend the same grace to people.
Yeah, which I think is so hard right now. I mean, there's so much vilification and so much like antagonism. I don't know if that's the right word, but like we're just being pushed to like extremes of if you do not think this way, then you're a bad person. Yeah. Which there are. I agree that there are extremes where that is, for the most part, like.
Yeah, I'm talking to this other guy, and his relative doesn't agree with his position, and he says, and they see each other quite often. He says, I just don't want to talk about it anymore. I said, don't. He goes, well, I'm so angry. I just want to yell at that person. I just want to yell. I said, that's not your burden to carry. And I patted him on the shoulder. I said, the decision they make is what they have to carry. You cannot carry that burden on them, from them. You got to let that go. So.
I'm thinking of like Jesus with the rich young ruler, and like whenever he would call people, he'd say like, drop your things and follow me. Yeah. But like if they didn't, like the rich young ruler, he said, so go sell all your things, give it to the poor, come and follow me. And it says the rich young ruler walked away sad.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say that Jesus was like, wait, let me explain to you why this is a good idea. Or like, let me explain to you why you should. It was just, here's your option. If you do it, then you do it.
Well, Jesus never said either, oh, good for you then. you want You want to go to hell? It's good for you. He said nothing
Go
like
then.
that.
Go.
Go. You like go. Good thing he wasn't local.
Yeah. Man, Pastor Owen, thank you so much just for you and I have had conversations where we disagree in different areas, and we've had like healthy, well, I don't agree with that, and you've said, well, here's why, and I've said, well, here's why I don't, and we've had that really healthy back and forth, and so and I just want to appreciate you and tell you how much I appreciate having you as like leading the church through this very divisive time, as someone who's very level-headed and okay, I'm not going to pick one side, and if you're on the other side, then you're wrong, or vice versa. But it's, hey, let's just have a conversation. How is this leading us to live more like Jesus?
It's really reminding myself that I'm called to pastor and to shepherd, and the flock is made up of all kinds. And you have to continue lovingly moving people forward. I want to be moving people forward in their faith, because when you get into arguments and debates, you end up being stuck. And you want to keep moving forward. So
thanks for practicing what you preach. Thanks for being having integrity and putting all of this and putting this forward.
Easy. It's not easy.
Oh yeah.
It's having a strong wife. If you think I have a level head, it's because Joy keeps pounding me down. Yeah, she's really good. She's really good to bounce stuff off of. She doesn't like to stand up in front of people and talk, but if you have a question and you want to just meet privately with her, best you catch her at church or something. But she has so much wisdom in her that I keep encouraging her. You cannot let that waste. You got to exercise that for some of our young ones.
Man, it's so good. I'm so glad as I look around and like seeing all the conversations and everything that's happening in the Capital C Church. I'm just glad that we are where we are.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we have leaders with integrity who have faith through the messy middle.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Pastor Owen, thanks for sitting down as always. Thanks for making some time. Super good conversation. I'm never gonna make coffee the same way again.
Willie, let me give you one, and it's not a plug just for plug's sake, but thanks for being a young leader that's open. You're not stuck in anything in particular. You're always open to learn and to consider things from different angles, and so that's what makes you a great young leader who's growing up. So
I learn from the best.
Yeah, Ashley.
Yeah, really. All right. Well, okay. Pastor Owen, thank you. All right, everybody. That's the Hanaho podcast. We'll see you on our weekend services. We'll see you next week.
Awesome.
Shoots.